just a recap, welcome everyone. If you just joined today, we are going to talk about a couple of exciting things. We'll give an update from the Huma side, introduce a new team member, go into protocol updates, Huma on the news, and then we'll give over to the Jia team, who is launching a fund on Huma, and they'll explain what they do and why they're excited about the fund that they're launching. But yeah, let's kick off. I'll let Herbal take the next one, team updates from Jatu, who's joined.
Yes, so we're so excited. Some of you might have seen him in the community as well. He was one of the first open source contributors to the Huma Protocol. So we're so excited to actually have Jia to join the core development team. So warm welcome to Jia too. If you're in the audience, we would like to welcome you to stage, Jia too, and tell us a bit about yourself. Yeah, Jia too.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
can hear.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name's Jia. I'm thrilled to have joined Huma as a software engineer just a few weeks ago. I've been focusing on the development of the evaluation agent ecosystem since I joined, and it's been a great experience so far. A little bit about myself. Before joining Huma, I had the opportunity to work at several tech companies in the Web2 space. However, my interest in the world of blockchain was sparked during my time as a student, where I took a few classes in crypto. This interest has only grown over the years, and I'm beyond excited to be part of the Huma team, a world-class group of innovators who are dedicated to building a meaningful and impactful product that empowers the 99%. And I'm truly grateful to be here, looking forward to contribute to Huma's mission and collaborating with all of you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Jia too. And maybe you can tell us just, in a short sentence, what are you most excited about in terms of, what you're building for the Huma protocol?
Yep, excited about the evaluation agent system I'm building right now, and also the prospect of being able to work on the contracts, hopefully shortly down the line.
Awesome. That's so great. It's great to have you. It's great to have, community members who have been contributing to our open source repositories join the core development team. So we're so lucky to have you with us. And we also have Richard joining in.
Hi, everyone. Happy to back to US and join the call.
Yeah, we'll talk about your exciting trip to Hong Kong soon. So maybe with that, we can give a quick update on Huma in the news. Thanks to this amazing community, we have been getting a lot of great coverage, especially during and after ETH Denver when we announced the public beta. We have been, invited to many Twitter spaces with our friends at BlueJay. We have hosted our own Twitter space with what we like to call a celebrity host, and we have been mentioned in many different outlets like Benzinga and Pulse 2, which had an interview with Richard. It's an amazing interview. You should definitely check it out. We've been on Crypto 101 podcast talking about, the banking crisis and the future of DeFi. We also have been featured by the zkSync ecosystem as one of the participants in the up and coming DeFi lending protocols. And our friends at Spectral also launched a blog post about proof of income, where it highlighted how new protocols like Huma can benefit the overall credit ecosystem in DeFi by bringing proof of income. So we've been super happy with all the coverage. I'm not sure, Zane, if I'm forgetting something. I'm sure I am.
No, these are all the highlights that we've been featured on.
That's awesome. And thank you all so much for retweeting these as we tweet these from our handle, Huma Finance. It really helps us, get awareness. I was at a Web3 event yesterday, and a lot of people knew about Huma, even though we just launched, literally 2 months ago. It's all thanks to you and, you retweeting and letting other people in your community know about Huma. So thank you all so much for that. And maybe with that, we can quickly cover what's going on the event side. We've been busy at ETH Denver when we launched our public beta, and now Richard was at Hong Kong, the Web3 festival. Maybe he can give us a quick update on what happened at Hong Kong, and we can all be informed about what's going on in the other part of the world.
Yeah, thank you, Erbo. And I was there for the Web3 festival in Hong Kong and driven by Hashkey. And really excited. The Hong Kong government just all in trying to embrace in Web3. They formed the Web3 consortium and really just demonstrated the government how supportive they are. And they work super hard. I was trying to meet with some of the government officers on Saturday. They just made time to meet with me and discuss about all kinds of things. That was just shows their commitment. And it was so fascinating. It's the festival, more than 10,000 people came, and it was so crowded. And there are all kinds of side events. And most of the side events just very quickly get full. And even if you got invited, you have tickets and you can unable to join. Just the enthusiasm, the energy was just so amazing. I just feel so excited. Personally, from Huma perspective, we care a lot about the emerging market. Southeast Asia is definitely one of the areas that we would like to serve. And I think it was really excited to see many developers, many business builders from the Southeast Asian, and we had a lot of fun together. And the other one is that I was so amazing. Quite some folks just, to echo what Erbo mentioned, was the Huma is relatively new, but some of the folks were already, Huma got attention by a bunch of developers already. And while I was there, after the day posted, I'm in Hong Kong, actually quite a few teams chased to me to talk about how potentially we can partner together. For example, one of them is called BSOS, BSOS, blockchain supply chain operating system. And basically, they do supply chain financing, and definitely see Huma as a natural partnership for them, so that we can showcase the high quality receivables they have and enable them to get access to more liquidity. I just feel super excited and definitely looking forward to working with them. And in addition to that, we talked to a lot of partners, potentially as a liquidity provider to the Huma ecosystem, and definitely looking forward to announce more of those partnership next month in our call.
That's awesome. Sounds like a very productive week, Richard, for you at Hong Kong.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I was very excited, and also super excited. I did not get sick this time. Every time when I join big conferences, I got sick in the last 2 years, but this time I survived well.
That's awesome. Is it fair to say Huma will have more of a presence starting from now in Asia, especially in Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, in Singapore?
Yeah, I think that's definitely very fair to say. I'm super excited. I was, Erbo, I just made very sudden decision. Only 2 or 3 days before the festival, I decided to go, and I just feel so lucky, so fortunate. I decided to go, learned so much, and got so much excitement for that region.
That's awesome. Yeah, we feel very excited about the Southeast Asia, especially knowing that we have a lot of community members actually from Indonesia, from Philippines, from Vietnam, from Malaysia. So we're so excited to actually have all these community members, and we would like to meet you if you're going to be in events in Southeast Asia later in the year. I'm also going to be in Consensus next week. So if anybody from the community is there, would love to meet. We'll be, having more partner meetings, and I'll be on a few panels as well. You'll see those from our Twitter. Without further ado, maybe Zane, we can move on to the protocol updates and then invite our guests.
Zane, are you able to hear?
Yeah, I moved over to the next slide. Maybe it's just taking a while to load.
Yeah, so we're seeing the protocol updates. Do you want to provide a quick summary of the protocol updates, Zane, and then invite our guests on the stage?
Sure. So we've been working on a blog post about the evaluation agent that Huma Protocol uses. It will probably be posted later today. And yeah, I think Richard would probably be the best person to go into what makes our evaluation agent so powerful. It is covered in the blog post as well, but I think we'll just give a little overview for now.
Yeah, so evaluation agent, to many of you guys, you think about this when you, as a lending protocol, usually you try to, any lending you have a, especially for risk on protocol, you got to get information, then you enable underwriting, and then you have the lending piece out. In our case, so if you look at our architecture, the protocol architecture, the bottom layer is all kinds of signal adapters, what we call it decentralized signal portfolio, so that we can understand all kinds of incomes, liabilities, all those receivables, all those type of information. The evaluation agent is a layer that will allow developers or business owners to build their own underwriting and logic into a piece we call the evaluation agent. And for different pools, different use cases, different evaluation agent can be written. And then when you launch the pool, each pool can be associated with an evaluation agent that makes the decisions on, who do you approve to lend from the pool, and what is the more like the limit how much they can borrow, and also even potentially can customize the interest rate for each individual as well. So that is the evaluation agent, and in the blog post we get more into it, the details, how it is built and how different people can participate.
Yeah, so we'll be sharing that soon, and then we'll go over to what we're really excited about for this call, welcoming the Jia team to the stage, so you can start requesting to speak. We went live with a Twitter thread recently that introduced what the Jia team does and that we are launching a fund with them. And we thought it would be great to introduce the team to the community so you can also see what we're planning to do. We're going to share a lot of information that we haven't shared before, so it's also some great alpha that you'll receive on the call, and also how you can get involved. Just
Amazing.
Gonna stop sharing here.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Zach.
Amazing. You know what? I can't seem to get my camera on though. Wonder why that is. I don't know. It worked when we just tested it before this, but it says I can't stream into this channel. Is that like a permission thing, you think?
That's an interesting thing. It might be a permission thing. Sorry for that.
No, that's okay.
We can fix it, but yeah, maybe we can. We have your deck as well.
Yeah, you have, I think, Janae, actually all of you guys have the deck. If because Cheng, are you here? Are you able to present? I don't see Cheng as one of our speakers yet. Oh,
Maybe-
nice. Here's Cheng on camera. Amazing. Now you guys can see my face. I'm a real human.
Awesome.
Real human for humanity. Cheng and Yuting, my fellow Jia Rafts, if you're here, please request to speak so you can join the stage.
There, I see Cheng's request.
Awesome.
There
Here
we
she
go.
is. Cool.
Hello, everyone.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And it's really a pleasure to meet the broader Huma community. We've had the pleasure of knowing these Huma folks for a while now, but just the core team, and it's great to meet, more of the family. And like Erbil said, just wishing everyone an Eid Mubarak if you're celebrating today. Should we get into our presentation? Is it okay, Cheng, if Cheng sort of presents
Let's do
the
it.
deck? Awesome. Oh, nice. So as you see in the upper left, you can see that she's presenting. So feel free to double click that if you'd like that to be blown up. Otherwise, you'll just see all of our faces, which is also fine. So real quick, we're the team from Jia, which is really focused on unlocking financial access in emerging markets. And just so you know who you're talking to here, you at least got a couple of the core team members. I don't know if Yuting is around, but Cheng, you want to go to the next slide? But that's us. So I'm Zach. I'm one of the co-founders. And basically Cheng and Yuting and I, and our fourth co-founder, Ivan, we all met about 6 years ago working for a fintech lending company called Tala, which was really the first mobile lending app, the first company that came up with the idea of even if there are 3 billion people in the world without a credit score, most of them have phones, and you can use phones to underwrite people for small loans. So that's where we met. We really have that sort of shared background. And we had always talked about ways to do microfinance more fair, flexible, and fast, and provide better returns. And that's what led to us starting Jia. I pretty much lead things on the business side. Cheng leads things on the product side, and Yuting on the finance and credit side. Before we get in, you want to say anything, Cheng?
No, I think you called it really well. Really excited to be here and really honored to be partnering with the Huma team.
Cool. And another, I guess, obvious thing to mention, how did we all meet is actually Yuting used to work with Erbil and Richard, and I think some other members of the Huma team at Earnin. So in a lot of ways, we have a lot of prior professional linkages. So we'd love today to be as interactive as possible. So please do drop things in the chat. And feel free, my Twitter handle's there at zmarks215. Feel free to follow and message me. My DMs are always open. Before we get into it, we would love to just get a sense of where everyone is. So this is one of the more crowded PowerPoint slides I've made in my career, but I wanted to fit as many languages as I could to just ask, where are you? I see there's 193 of us here. Would love to see 193 flags, or at least just dropping of what city you're in. I'm curious if we have folks joining from anyone here from the Philippines or from Kenya. Those are the two of the Jia's first launch markets. Let's see. We got Black Hat is in that looks like Bangladesh. Kamanacho, Black Hat, if you're actually in Bangladesh. Cool. All right. Well, feel free to just drop where you are as we go. The next thing I will ask, didn't get too much engagement on that, but I will ask, is any guesses of why we're called Jia? I'll just let it sink for a moment. Okay, at least you're thinking about it. I think we're just going to tell you the answer rather than wait too long. But it is sort of an homage to our multilingual, cross-global heritage. Jia means a couple things in a couple different languages. Yes, exactly. Play Joker. Got it. So in Chinese, Jia means sort of home or family, which we really think of as the central financial unit that we are building upon. In Hindi, Jia means heart, and we are really focused on the idea of building banking with a heart. And finally, in Swahili, Njia means road or path. And we are building the road or path to financial independence. And Kenya is our first market, and in Kenya they speak Swahili, so that makes a lot of sense. Oh, lovely. We're seeing some flags here. Sweet. That looks like Indonesia. I'm going to test my flag knowledge. I hope I'm right. Indonesia, Nigeria. Awesome. Great to see folks. Thank you. I think also, I think it's probably the Eid holiday, so thank you for being on us on that time. Cool. We will tell you a bit more about Jia in a moment, but just want to do a quick poll in the chat. All right, South Africa. Is what are you most interested in learning about today? Maybe Janae, you can drop that poll so it's easy for people to just answer. I guess sort of, are you most interested in learning how Jia expands financial access for small businesses? Are you more interested in investment opportunities, possibly for yourself? Or are you here for the NFT drops and token alpha? I know I just went to try to claim my POAP, however people like to pronounce it. And I guess I need 15 minutes on the screen to verify it. So I'm excited for that. Cool. Russia's in the house. Rocket ship's in the house. I can see Janae typing the poll. Also, it's sort of a trick question because no matter which of those three you're interested in, we're going to touch on all of them. But I am curious to hear what people want to spend the most time on, because that way I can go faster through certain parts of the presentation. Cool. You know what? Maybe the poll's taking a little bit longer, so we'll just get into it. All right. So the way we're gonna the first way to just sort of understand what Jia does is really to put yourself in the shoes of one of our first borrowers. Oh, nice. So one of our first borrowers is a guy named Francis Njoroge. He is a spice vendor in sort of in a very crowded market called Githurai Market outside of Nairobi. And he sells. Oh, nice. We're seeing what people are popping in. Nice. I'm loving the people are interested in the financial access. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about investment opportunities. We're going to talk about it all. Okay. So Francis is, if you just think about Francis's like sort of business, he's a great candidate for why we need to expand financial access. So he runs a really good business. You can see sort of his stall there. He makes these own custom blends for biryanis and pilau and garam masala. Like it smells wonderful when you go up to his shop. He's all this cumin and chili peppers and ginger and turmeric. Because he doesn't have access to financing, he basically has to buy really frequently in small amounts. So sort of every other day, he's buying more spices at a pretty high price. And because he's buying small amounts, he runs out of inventory. So when I was just visiting him in February, I literally saw a guy from a nearby restaurant come by who was just trying to buy 5 kilograms of sesame seeds. And Francis had just ran out of his sesame seeds. And I asked him, like, well, why does that happen? He's like, well, to buy the bigger amount of sesame seeds, if I want to do the 100 kg purchase, I need more capital. So I have to buy it every other day. So I run out of inventory. And this is obviously bad for Francis because it means he can't make that sale. And also his margins are lower because he's buying smaller amounts of higher quantities. And he just can't provide as well for his family. So if you go to a bank and you ask them, like in Kenya, like, why aren't you giving this guy Francis a loan? He's running a good business. Jane, you can go to the next slide. They'll basically tell you a couple things. Like the big thing they'll probably say is, well, the reality is there's not much data to underwrite. I just don't know how many spices maybe Francis sells in a day. They also will say something like, it's too small to make it worth our while. Maybe Francis needs $500 of working capital, but it'll cost us more than that to go and meet him and do all this KYC and take collateral from him. And we have these old underwriting processes. And so we're just not going to do the loan. So because of that, generally we have what is described sometimes as a $5 trillion credit gap in emerging markets. We've seen estimates as higher than that or lower, but the point is it's big. There's a lot of good businesses who are not being funded to grow their business, which is really a shame. So that is sort of the core challenge and problem that Cheng and I have, and Yuting, the whole Jia founding team, that we've dedicated our careers to. And so I'll take a little memory road of how we got to Jia. So Cheng and I both began our careers in what is sort of generally thought of as the first wave of microfinance, the first attempt to solve this sort of financial inclusion challenge. And the way those models work, if you're familiar with the Grameen Bank, I saw some people dropped Bangladesh emoji. There's a Pakistan one, right? But the idea of it's the idea of using existing community finance groups. So in many emerging markets, as many of you know, due to the flags you've shared, the way people often save and borrow is in small groups. In West Africa, you might call these susus, or in East Africa, chamas, or in I think in Indonesia they're called arisan. And the idea is that people save and borrow together in a common pot of money. And the great thing is everyone sort of knows and trusts each other. So generally people repay because everyone's sort of boats rise together. The challenge is it's very hard for these models to scale. So once the groups get larger than, say, 20 people, you often see start to see defaults because people don't know and trust each other as much anymore. And if you're an external microfinance institution trying to work with these groups, they're actually quite manually intense and expensive to operate. You have to hire new loan officers to go and reach new groups and grow the traction. So so Cheng and I started our careers working on these kind of projects. There's me in South Sudan back when I was, I guess, like 10 years younger, and there's Cheng in Tanzania working with a community bank. And when we saw that the challenge of scaling community microfinance, we joined what we call Microfinance 2.0, the second wave of microfinance, which is using technology to reach folks. And that's actually, that's where Cheng and I met. It was at this company called Tala, which had this idea that there's all these people with all these phones, and you can use phone data to underwrite. And so what we did is we had this mobile lending app, which was a really simple user experience. You just download it and you apply and get approved pretty instantly for a small loan, usually it begins around $10. And this could scale really well. I think in the 6 years that Cheng and I worked together there, we went from maybe 6,000 to 6 million borrowers, really impressive growth. But what we totally missed out on is we lost that element of community trust and community ownership. And we would hear this actually quite frequently when we did user interviews. We'd say, what would be better from our company? And they'd say, well, with my SACCO, a SACCO is a Kenyan savings and credit cooperative. It's like a new microfinance vocab word for you guys. They'd say in my SACCO, after I repay, I put my money in and I get shares. And I've been taking your guys' loans for a year now. Why can't I have shares of you guys? And because they didn't have that ownership stake, there would be really high default rates and pretty low customer loyalty. That's sort of endemic across, I think, the fintech lending industry in emerging markets, because fundamentally you have this misaligned interest between lenders and borrowers. And the reality is, even if our company had wanted to distribute equity shares all around the globe, it's really difficult for a US company to do that, and to do that in a really liquid way. And of course, that is the beauty of crypto, and why I think so many of you guys are here in the audience, is this idea of programmable money with a token. And so what sort of led us to leave Tala and start Jia was this idea of creating an ownership economy where we could reward borrowers by, when they repay or refer good borrowers, we can reward them with the token. And that's a simple thing to do, right? You basically make a token have a claim to an on-chain stream of revenues. It's all programmed with smart contracts. And you can even program cool different credit rewards in there to incentivize better borrower as well. But in short, what the idea is to move from what we saw as a very transactional model, where customers or borrowers were on the end of this one-way transactional traffic line from lender to borrower, and move to more of a circular ownership economy that rewards borrowers for their good behavior, and where the borrower is not just a customer, but an owner. So I'm going to talk to you about how this works when we think of a customer like Francis, who we introduced earlier. So Francis, the way we meet him is generally we work through partners to acquire customers. Sometimes we're directly, we might directly be meeting them with, say, an agent in the community. But in Francis's case, we'll work with a partner who has a lot of data about Francis. Maybe they're a spice wholesaler for him, for example. And we meet him where he is. Francis probably hasn't heard much about crypto, so he doesn't know too much about tokens or anything like that, or getting loans and stable coins. He basically just wants a loan in Kenyan shillings to pay for his inventory. So that's where Jia meets him. We have the Kenyan mobile app that he'll interact with us with. And he says, yep, I want to borrow. This looks like a good deal. And then he repays us. And when he repays, he gets his first token. And that's probably his first cryptocurrency. And the way we make it feel very meaningful and relevant to him is immediately it unlocks better credit terms. So by having these Jia tokens, he gets access to lower interest rates, longer loan durations, so we can take longer to repay, and larger loan amounts, so we can keep on growing. And so already, even if he's not so familiar with how we could maybe stake that token or trade it on a DEX or something, he already is getting some value out of it. What's happening in the background, even if he doesn't realize it, is he's beginning to build his on-chain history. So when Francis says, yep, I want to borrow with Jia, what's happening is money is actually being off-ramped from a liquidity pool, we'll start with Huma, and then goes into shillings. And then when he repays, that money is re-on-ramped into the pool and then provides returns for LPs. And what's exciting in the long run is Francis building this history. He's not just building it with Jia. He now has the chance to access credit from other protocols. To grow this network, Francis can do something he already does probably pretty frequently in his offline community finance group, where typically if he wanted to get, say, his cousin a loan, he'd invite his cousin in and he'd have to put up collateral for his cousin. When he does that offline and his cousin repays, all he does is gets his collateral freed up. He doesn't get anything special. But with Jia, if he stakes his Jia token on that cousin who repays, then he gets even more token rewards, and he should be rewarded because he's helping underwrite and make that loan go through. Another thing that was sort of a Jia 2.0 release, which we don't have yet, but which we're really excited about, is the idea of creating a global business service provider network. Because we hear all the time from borrowers like Francis, we don't just need credit, we also need services. So like Francis is like, I want someone to help me with digital marketing so I can sell my spices online. At the end of the day, once Francis is more and more comfortable with the Jia token, he's also able to participate in governance, and he's really an owner and a builder of this community, which if you think about the difference between how he is today, usually on the end of this one-way transaction, it's just very different and more holistic. So let me talk really quick about how this whole model sort of works. Jia sort of opens on-chain liquidity pools, and that's what we're doing with Huma very soon. I don't want to put a date and have it be wrong, but certainly soon enough that you should be watching Twitter. So LPs put money in that liquidity pool. Jia then off-ramps it to our borrowers. Now, how do we get borrowers like Francis I mentioned? Mostly through partners. And so if we are, so those partners could be, for example, wholesalers, like say maybe the guy who wholesales spices to Francis. It could also be we've partnered with some payment gateways. There's sort of a mobile money network in Kenya where we are able to access their mobile money receipts to underwrite. And there's a couple other partner mechanisms, but in generally we're using that to provide inventory financing or invoice financing. And I think that's another thing that we really love about Huma is this whole idea of income-backed lending. The same way you're beginning to do that already with on-chain invoices, we're going to work to actually tokenize real-world invoices. Say Francis has an invoice out to a restaurant for some sesame seeds or something, we can actually tokenize that and bring it on-chain to unlock liquidity. And as I mentioned, just to complete the circle, when borrowers repay, the money goes back up into the liquidity pool and LPs earn yields, as well as some token returns just for keeping their money in the pool. Okay, so the next slide is I just wanted to highlight one sort of example of a partner. Sort of since it's the first partner that went live earlier this year is a company called Ilara Health. They basically have a network of about 2,000 medical clinics around Kenya. And all of their clinics, they need financing because maybe they buy their medicines on a Monday, but their patients don't come in until Friday and maybe don't even pay them for another week or something. And meanwhile, those clinics need to keep their shelves stocked with medicines. But Ilara is not in the business of lending. They just are in the business of serving clinics. So we partner with them. We use their data about their clinics, and we actually use it to underwrite loans that these clinics can buy medical inventory on credit. And I think people always talk about like, well, what's the real world use case for crypto or blockchain? And this is very real world. We're talking about literal people buying medicines to help their sick children not be sick and be able to go to school. So it's pretty inspiring stuff. So that's the Ilara partnership. I want to talk about just really quickly the Jia Huma partnership. And obviously you'll see more about this since you guys are already plugged into this community. But in short, what we're doing with Huma is opening up pools where LPs can deploy their capital and then earn returns that are backed by these real world businesses. The Jia token has not launched yet, and it's not set to launch until much later this year. But like many protocols, we are providing sort of early token reward promises, typically through the form of a token warrant, for early liquidity providers. And that is what folks who participate in this Jia Pioneer Fund pool will be able to receive. I'm actually going to take a pause for a second because I do see that someone asked a question. I just wanted to give it some love. Let's see. Makidekia, apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm curious about how this mechanism prevents people from building trust at first and then grabbing the money and then disappearing, switching account. That is a great question, and that is actually one of like the core challenges that we would think about all the time at Tala, and probably that Erbil and Richard even talked about at Earnin, is you have this challenge of people maybe sometimes climbing a loan ladder. Maybe they repay the $10 loan, the $20 loan, just so they can get up to the $500 loan, and then bam, they bust out. That's the hard work of constructing a credit protocol, is really being able to understand what are behavioral signals that suggest that isn't going to happen. We saw it all the time. For example, if they're repaying their loans like really fast and then taking out new loans really fast after that, that's sort of an obvious sign of what they're trying to do, and you can sort of you can sort of put in a cooling off period. But that's really I know Yuting's not here as a speaker yet, but it'd be cool to have her thoughts on that. But the idea is you build in sort of underwriting signals that sort of identify when that is going to happen before it's too late. Another point also, you mentioned like grabbing the money, disappearing, and switching accounts. I mean, the reality is, in our case, we are dealing with real borrowers who are real world KYC'd. So it's a bit different than crypto lending, where you could just take a loan and say, hey, I'm repaying, and then boom, you just like disappear and the money is in another crypto wallet and you have no idea who that person is. Like, these are borrowers who we have their real world address, their real world information. When they default, we can report them to the credit bureau. We think it's unlikely that they're going to choose to default, especially when they're doing it through a trusted partner. Like if we're delivering them the financing in the form of inventory from the wholesaler they buy their medicines from or their spices from, it's way less likely that they're going to default versus if they were just taking cash and a payday loan and you never see them again. So thank you for that question, Makidekia. Next slide, I just wanted to share that we have our light paper is now up on our website. If you go to jia.xyz, I don't expect you to be able to read this slide, but that's like some screenshots from it, and that gives a bit more detail of how the actual protocol works and how the token will work once it's launched. Thank you for sharing the link there, Janae. Let's see. Oh, Mike asks, will Jia have something like identity tokens for people who have KYC'd on the platform? Yes, that is something we're working up, just similar to how I think a lot of sort of DeFi protocols have identity tokens for the investors who have been KYC'd or done investor accreditation. I think I should ask the Huma team how they do that exactly, but we have something like that in mind. And for the borrowers themselves, ultimately, yes, the idea is also that they will have sort of a KYC identity token as well, so that we can link that. I mentioned that on-chain credit history, and you want to be able to link that history to the actual borrower. Awesome. So on this next slide is about our roadmap, and just quick, I'll just share sort of where Jia's been and where we're headed. So last year, so the Jia team, has been working on this for about a year, and towards the end of last year, we raised our seed round, which was sort of an oversubscribed round of about $4.3 million from some leading blockchain and fintech investors, which I'll share about in the next slide. And with that's how we got started with our first lending pilots, which have been inventory and invoice financing, as I mentioned, in Kenya and the Philippines. We have plans to expand to new countries very soon. And so one of the things we're excited about, speaking of this Huma call and seeing all those flags of Indonesia and Bangladesh and Nigeria, is maybe even working with some of the community here to see how we can begin to serve borrowers in those countries. The big thing next in the roadmap, which we're very excited about, is unlocking investment opportunities on Huma with our Pioneer Fund pool, which will launch very soon. And then towards the end of this year, working on actually launching the token and adding new financial products. And when I say that, I mean not just doing inventory and invoice financing, but also things like asset financing, and even helping our borrowers save and invest. Because if you think about it, we've provided this on-ramp into the Web3 economy. They don't need to just hold Jia tokens. We can help them hold US dollar stablecoins and other cryptocurrencies. Excellent. So the next slide sort of just shares a few of our investors who got us started. So TCG Crypto, Block Tower, and Saison Capital all wrote sort of the biggest checks in that round. We really love those folks. TCG is really focused on sort of the next, I'd call like building consumer-friendly crypto use cases. Block Tower is all about real-world assets on chain, and Saison Capital is a Southeast Asian fund sort of at the intersection of fintech and crypto, and has done a bunch of fintech lending businesses. Other big investors include Packy McCormick from Not Boring, Anand Iyer from Canonical, a bunch of sort of big crypto VC names that you might have heard. And ultimately, what I would like to say is we are at this stage we're primarily focused on raising money in that Jia in the Huma pool. For this initial pool experience, it's going to be a bit permissioned. It's not as pure permissionless DeFi as we love in the long run. Part of that's just because of the initial legal structure we've gotten going. And so what that means is for initial participants, you'll actually get to talk with me, the real person, as opposed to just connecting your wallet and putting in your stables. You'll actually talk to me and we'll go over the legal documents. And that's how you'll get access to your token warrants as well. And so I just wanted to put my email here, zach@jia.xyz. If you're interested in learning more and talking about it, feel free to just write me an email. If you'll be at Consensus next week, I'll also be there. We could even meet in person. And so then finally, just how do I participate? I guess sort of the three major things I'd say is, one, if you are interested in helping us grow our borrower base, maybe you're in an emerging market like Indonesia or Nigeria, and you sort of know a group or a company that has a need for financing. It might be whether it's like a wholesaler that they think that their merchants and customers could access financing, or if they're just a small business who you think would be a good borrower as well. All of those inbound requests I'm happy to chat with. Obviously, another great way is to invest in our Pioneer Fund pool on Huma. And finally, just like to go collect your POAP, just go follow Jia DeFi and stay tuned for more updates. That is all for a little presentation, but I want to make sure I spend some time to answer any questions you have. And also give Cheng a chance if you'd like to share anything that I have not covered.
You covered it really well, Zach. Let's see what the questions are coming.
Cool.
This is so exciting. We've been obviously following Jia from very early days, and we've been so excited about what you're doing. Especially, our missions and visions align so clearly that we are very happy to be the platform. You're launching your first, DeFi service on. So that's been amazing experience working with you. But also, I think how fast, we went from just talking about a potential partnership at ETH Denver less than 2 months ago to like almost launching it, very, very soon. I'm not going to also spoil by giving a specific date, but very, very soon. That's been an amazing experience to work with the team. So I think, people in the audience, in our community, this is a project worth watching because it's going places. Many people might not have heard of it yet, but in just a few months, they will be, I think, one of the most, well-known and interesting projects to find the future of DeFi, especially because of the real impact it's going to have in the real world. It's, kind of merging these two today maybe separate worlds where there's so many needs and demands and unmet capital gaps in emerging markets, and then there's the DeFi that's in its own bubble, playing with stuff, and it's for the first time those two things are coming together in a very real way, and the impact of it is going to be enormous because, as Zach said, that ownership economy exists in maybe small pockets, but for the first time somebody's actually taking to the mainstream. So we're so excited.
Definitely. Yeah, I just should echo how impressed I've been just working with you guys. I mean, it's so awesome to have the whole Huma team. You guys clearly are pros who know what you're doing in terms of launching products fast, and it's been such a great experience going from, we were on the hacker house couch in ETH Denver, and now not that much longer, we're already looking at launching. So thank you for that.
Right. No, thank you. It's great to have partners that match our passion and speed, let's say. Anybody from the audience, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, or feel free to ask to speak on the stage. I think somebody commented on Cheng, but that was more for her beautiful looks. But
Yeah, I think someone's trying to flirt with you, Cheng. It's nice to know you have admirers in the audience.
I think some questions are coming. I see some people typing up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on Discord, we don't have, I believe, too much room to get people on the stage. So we had
Yeah.
this challenge in the past as well, but usually, people are good at putting it in the chat. So there's some questions. Do you want to take them?
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Mike, thank you for your great question. Yes, so for this initial permissioned pool, you'll have to be an accredited investor. And part of that just has to do, I mean, I'm sure you guys are following the news and all of the back and forth about everything compliance with crypto. Just as we get this going, we really want to make sure we're doing things as cleanly as possible. So we're taking accredited investor funds only. I know that might not be welcome news to some DGen folks, but that's just how it is for now, and maybe we'll move to a more open structure soon. And then Chow Supers, great question. Do we need people to join us? Yes, we're always looking for great talent to join the team. We actually don't have like proper open roles right now. We just closed our search for a Kenya business lead, which we're really excited about. But especially when it comes to technical talent, as anyone knows, every team always needs great engineers and great designers. That's something I've been talking about with Janae a lot, actually. So feel free to just, if you're interested, you want to just drop your resume or your LinkedIn or GitHub or whatever, you can just email it to me, zach@gia.xyz.
That's awesome.
And I'd say particularly if you happen to be in Kenya or the Philippines, definitely reach out because we would love to meet you in person. I'll be in the Philippines in a couple weeks, and Cheng will be in Kenya, I believe, next week. Thank you for posting that, Cheng.
We definitely have community members who are in Philippines and Kenya. Also, a lot of people in Indonesia and Nigeria as well. So please make sure you're following Jia and stay up to date with what's coming. You keep asking us about Huma tokens, but maybe Jia tokens are coming sooner. So make sure to stay in touch.
Yeah. Oh, awesome, Mike. Thank you for asking the question. I guess you might have missed the first slide where we actually shared what Jia means, but not an odd question at all. Jia has meanings in a couple different languages. In Chinese, Jia is home or family, which we think is the central financial unit. In Hindi, Jia is heart, and we're building banking with a heart. And in Swahili, in Jia, so Jia with an N in front of it, means road or path, and we're building the path to financial independence. So I can close the way I started.
That's awesome. This has been great. It's so great to have both of you, Chang and Zach, on the stage with us today for the Call for Humanity April edition. Any closing remarks, Zane, Richard?
From my side, it's just we are planning to release some exciting content to celebrate the launch with Jia. So we'll have a blog post that introduces the team a bit more and their background, what they've been up to and what led them to where they are now. And then, some other content as well that we'll definitely share in the announcement channel on our Discord chat. So you can keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think we are excited to work with a lot of what we call crypto forward fintech companies to enable them to enable them with access to global capital through DeFi. And Jia is the very first, and very soon we're gonna have more to come. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned, spread the love, keep retweeting, the great content coming out. You have a chance to make an impact in the world as we move from the old hectic ways of finance that's unfortunately not very accessible and very exclusive to a much more inclusive and an ownership economy with a new financial mindset. So we're so excited and hope to see everybody in our Twitter space that's happening when, Zane? Do we have the exact time?
We don't have the exact time, but it'll be in 2 weeks' time.
All right.
Amazing.
I think we have somebody in the quest to speak. Just invited him.
Yeah, who's there?
Did he
Are
join?
you able to join?
Looks like he wasn't able to join.
That's okay.
Okay.
Feel
Yeah.
free to drop your question on Twitter, or if your questions for the Jia team, send them a DM or message on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. Love it. Go Huma.
Thank you.
Go Jia.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All
All right,
see you,
everybody.
Kennedy.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.